Surprise, bitch. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
Today's story is the prime example of the phrase, hurt people hurt people. The subject of today's story endured an upbringing full of rage, cruelty, and trauma, and decided to take that and give it back to the world that had ostracized him. His name is Eric Edgar Cooke, also known as the Night Caller, and this is his story. What's up, y'all? I missed y'all. Y'all like my nails? If you follow me on Snapchat and Instagram, you already know. You already seen my little rose quartz set. I love it. What was the spider fingers though? These are actually press-ons. I have entered the world of press-ons and I have refused to leave. Like, I want to stay here forever. And if you're interested, I'll put the link down below. If you put them on right, no, they do not fall off. This is my second pair. The first pair would have lasted forever because I used the mega hole glue. You know what? Let's not even get into all of that. We got a lot of ground to cover today. You already know the vibes. Geese in the background. Eric Edgar Cooke was born February 25th of 1931, making him a Pisces. It's still Pisces season, right? I ain't gonna give y'all too much. Not today. He was born in Perth, Australia, so you know. I'm gonna need y'all from these hometowns to start taking half the responsibility. These be y'all people too. Honestly. Now, apparently, his father, Vivian Cooke, was an aggressive alcoholic. And see, the thing is, as a man named Vivian, I can understand why you might be a little upset, but sis, you don't have to take that out on people who had nothing to do with your name. And apparently, Vivian had only married Eric's mother, Christine, because he found out that she was pregnant. And he wasn't ready to be a father. He was not ready for marriage and, you know, all of the things. But it's 1930s and being a baby mama or a baby father is kind of frowned upon. So he felt obligated to then marry her. Vivian was already very angry and always drinking, and then it would get worse when he was drunk. But this only worsened their dynamic because, like I said, he wasn't ready to be a father. He wasn't ready to be a husband. So he really kind of took that out on Christine. Child, their relationship was already toxic AF. And this just made it that much worse. And unfortunately, also took this rage out on his unwanted child, little baby Eric, just born into mess. Not only was Eric an unwanted child, he was born with a cleft lip and palate, and so this only worsened his father's disdain for him. Vivian wanted really nothing to do with Eric. When Eric is 3 months old, Christine takes him to have his first surgery to try to correct the deformity. He also undergoes a second surgery at 3.5 years old. Although it did help some, it kind of caused different damages. The surgeries, although somewhat successful, left him with a misshapen jaw and also a speech impediment. And this made Eric very insecure. He was insecure about his appearance and also his overall self-worth because, of course, Vivian was an asshole and was very emotionally abusive. All of this resulted in Eric pretty much developing into a very shy, very timid, and emotionally unstable child. Eric's father, Vivian, hated his deformity so much, and this made Vivian treat him much worse than he already was. As a very young child, Eric was receiving daily beatings from his father. They first started out with just like his hands, and then it graduated to pretty much whatever he can find, be it his belt, a stick, child, the remote, whatever was around that he could grab and use, he definitely would on this small child. Vivian was a terrible, terrible human being. Christine and Vivian go on to have 2 more children after Eric, both girls, and while they were also subjected to their father's rage, it was not nearly as bad as what Eric had to endure. This was mostly due to his physical appearance. The other girls were born without any kind of abnormalities, but it also had to do with the fact that as he had gotten a little older, and mind you, he has not started school yet. He's still a very small child at this point in the story. He would attempt to like shield his mother or protect her from his father. He would try to stand in front of her with his little arms outstretched and block his father's lashings. And his father really, really hated this. Like, it really infuriated him a lot. Vivian's alcohol-induced rampage was pretty bad. It was so bad that oftentimes she would go to work and not leave at the time that she had actually gotten off. She would instead stay back and hide out in the break room just to avoid going home to her husband and being subjected to his rage. As soon as Eric starts school, he becomes a prime target for bullying and ridicule. He is mocked by the other children for his speech. They taunted him about his looks. They would also tease him and pick on him because of his timid demeanor. Like, you know, children can sense weaknesses, child. And them little bullies be something else when they ain't taught no better. So you know what kids give. They can be pretty ruthless. And they were. In a later interview, looking back at this period of his life, Eric said that he felt like an outcast. He also felt like the freak of the family. He said that he was very much neglected. And around this time, he was really understanding and fully grasping that he was an unwanted child and what it meant. It was just a terrible time for him. Now, as far as his schoolwork, Eric had a very good memory. And so this really served him throughout the time that he spent in school. He did pretty good in schoolwork. Like, sis could memorize pretty much anything. But unfortunately, he started to have some behavioral issues, which kind of, you know, prevented him from being the little star student that he could have been. At the tender age of 6, he is expelled from school for stealing money from his teacher's purse. Now, apparently, allegedly, he was very much neglected and he was hungry, and that was the reason he did it. But you can't just be stealing poo. You can't just do that. After he was expelled, he was transferred to an alternative school, which he was met with the same exact bullying, the same taunting from the kids there. And for other reasons like this, like, he would always get into trouble no matter what school he was in, and he would always get kicked out. He attended a total of 5 schools between him starting at 5 and dropping out at 14. And at every school, it was the same mockery, the same ridicule, just all of the things just followed him, child, everywhere. Now, at the age of 14, he decides to completely stop going to school. He is done with it. He would get up in the mornings and spend his day roaming the neighborhoods, just walking the streets, doing random things. He would even spend some nights away from home, just hiding out outside, doing random things, just to avoid going home and being in that toxic environment or being subjected to his father's wrath. He gets bored with this little routine rather quickly and decides to get a little job and earn him some money. He is offered the opportunity to work as a delivery boy for a local store. He does that for some time. Eric would take his little weekly earnings that he made at this job and he would give them all to Christine. She was really struggling to provide for him, his siblings, as well as her ancient husband at the house. He really wanted to help her out any way that he could, and this actually was a little bit of a help for her. Unfortunately, though, he was very accident prone as a child. While he would get these jobs, he wasn't able to really hold them for long because it would always have an accident. Something crazy would happen and then he just couldn't work there anymore. He had gotten a job at a factory for a period of time after the delivery boy job, and then he was struck on the nose by a piece of machinery which caused him to be hospitalized, and so he had to let that go. Now, at 16, he started working with a blacksmith, and on this job, he burns his face with steam, and the burns were pretty bad. He suffered second-degree burns from this accident, and he had also jarred his hand, which injured his left thumb, so it was always something happening on these jobs that physically prevented him from just being able to continue. But at least he did attempt to, dust himself off and try again. At age 17, he either progressed in his crimes of stealing money from the teachers' purses, or he began actually getting caught for these crimes. I don't know which one it is. It began with arson and burglary. He would actually break into people's homes and then set them on fire. In one instance, an acquaintance of his had actually given them their apartment key to, check on their apartment while they were out of town. Now, while this acquaintance was gone, Eric breaks in. He stages a break-in because he has the key. He walks in with the key, gets all of the things that he wants of value, and then he stages a break-in as if someone had broken a window and entered. Just a mess. When it is discovered that Eric is actually the perpetrator and that he had done all of this by himself, he was given probation in order to seek psychiatric help. Now, allegedly, whatever psychiatrist he went and saw advised that he was beyond help. A local minister offered to make an attempt to rehabilitate Eric, because he just felt like nobody was beyond help, like everybody could be helped. And he attempts to do so by offering Eric something that literally nobody ever had: acceptance. He began spending a lot of time with Eric, offering him guidance, trying to mentor him. The two would often go play hockey together, The minister actually got him to come to church and attend Bible classes. Eric had actually found friendship within the church. The people there were very nice to him, very accepting of him. But these relationships and these friendships were very short-lived because Eric liked to steal. He started stealing from these people. He would steal from these people even in the house of the Lord under the eyes of the little cherubs. He did not care. They did not appreciate that, of course. So that was over. He is also still out here burglarizing the neighborhood. So in 1949, when he is just 18 years old, he is arrested when his fingerprints are matched to those found at one of the homes that had been burglarized. They were also matched to a church that had been burned down. And I'm not sure if this is the church that he had attended. I couldn't find anything to verify that was the same church that he attended Bible classes and had stolen from. Sure, it was somebody's church. At both crime scenes, he had left behind so many fingerprints and so many physical pieces of evidence that it was super easy for them to convict him of the charges brought against him. As a result, he is sentenced to 3 years in prison. And this really taught Eric a lesson, but y'all, not the lesson you're probably thinking about. It taught him to be a lot more careful in his future endeavors. Now, honey, as an adult, Eric was described as a short, thin man with dark curly hair and a twisted mouth. Not my words. Don't y'all try to come for me. I didn't read him like that. That's just what they said. That's how they described him and his looks as an adult. They as in them, not me. At the age of 21, he decides, I'm going to join the Australian Army. He was very excited about this. He goes on and he joins, they accept him and send him off to basic training. But 3 months later, when his background comes back and they find out that he had all these little charges of, arson and burglary and everything that he was into, he was discharged immediately and sent packing, but not before they had trained him how to properly use firearms. He had actually picked up on it so quickly and he was so good at it. He had that memory. He was quickly advanced to Lance Corporal. So, within them 3 months, he was really moving on up. But then, child, they moved him on now. Eric returns home and he begins working as a truck driver. He stops to have a meal at a local diner and he meets a waitress, an 18-year-old waitress by the name of Sarah Lavin. Now, initially, Sarah finds him to be quite charming. She thinks he's really cute. She likes the whole short, thin man with dark curly hair and a twisted mouth. Sarah finds Eric to be quite attractive. She likes short man, curly hair, timid thing he had going on. They were mutually attracted to each other. They began dating, they hit it off, and within a year, they are married. Over the course of their marriage, they have a total of 7 children together, 4 boys and 3 girls. On the outside, it appeared that Eric had finally found his happily ever after. He had found a woman that genuinely loved him and accepted him and found him attractive. He had a seemingly happy and solid marriage. He had these beautiful children, but in reality he was far from happy and content. The trauma from his childhood still really haunted him and resulted in him forming this really deep disdain for the world in general. So unfortunately, this happy ending came a little bit too late to counteract some of the deep-rooted issues and hatred that had just manifested inside of him from all of these years of mockery and torment, just everything that he endured growing up the way that he did. The damage had been done and he was pretty much just mad at the world at this point. He did a pretty good job though at disguising this. At first, it wasn't until after the couple welcomed their first child that Sarah had realized that the man that she had fallen in love with and thought to be a good loving partner had a completely different side to him, one that was cruel, that could be very, very mean, violent, and unfaithful. The nerve. Sarah would oftentimes express these concerns and these issues to her friends and family, and they would often encourage her to leave him. Get your shit and go, girl. But she didn't want to do that. She loved him. They had a big family together. She felt like it was hope for them and that, these were issues that they could work through, but I guess she just wanted to vent. Now, sis stayed through a lot. 2 months after she had given birth to one of their sons, Eric was sent to jail for 2 years because he had stolen a car and was chasing his side piece down in it. The ghetto. But she decided, to stick by her husband's side and ride it out even through his 2-year sentence. Now, as for the car theft, let's dive into that. In the 60s, it was pretty much common, at least in this town, for people to leave their key in the ignition overnight, not running, just sitting there in the ignition, ready for them to leave in the morning. And Eric would take complete advantage of this. He got a little thrill out of hopping in people's cars and joyriding them through the night and then returning them before morning. And honey, the owner just never knew anything had happened. Now, he started out doing this, just to test the waters. When he realized that he could do this and easily and not be caught, he graduated to doing this almost every night. Like it was his hobby. During this time, a string of hit and runs began to happen around town, and people were confused as to how their car could have possibly been involved. People were perplexed as to how their cars could have been described, on the scene or have anything to do with these hit and runs. It's like, nah, baby, I was asleep. That was not me. Unbeknownst to them, Eric had been hopping in their car while they were tucked away in bed, going out at night, joyriding, and purposely hitting people with their car. You know what? I wonder if he put the gas back in the car. Probably not. Really, honestly, unless I just filled up within the last couple days, if I hop in my car and see that it's really lower on E, I would just think I hadn't been paying attention to the gas hand. So they probably really never suspected anything. The hit and runs were not the only thing that was going on around town that was suspicious and mysterious. There had also been a series of seemingly unrelated violent attacks. Some were shootings, some were stabbings, some were stranglings, and in each instance the method and the weapon used were completely different. And so although it was really sudden, they didn't believe that it was the same person doing all of this because it was completely so random. Sometimes there would be scissors used, sometimes there would be knives, sometimes the weapon was an axe. It was just always something different. And the crimes themselves were very different. Several of them have been attacked after waking up and finding an intruder inside their home. Some of them were attacked while they were sleeping in their home and literally nothing was taken, or it didn't appear that anything had been taken from the home. Some of the homes were vandalized after the fact. Some of them had not been disturbed at all. Some people were seemingly attacked after answering a knock at the front door. It was just complete random madness. After one homeowner was slain, Eric actually entered the home, got himself a glass of lemonade out of her refrigerator, sat on the porch, sat on the porch drinking it, and then he leaves. In another instance, the female was assaulted post-mortem, so he had some necrophilia tendencies going on, and dragged her to her neighbor's lawn and left her there. That's like some shit out of a horror movie. And that's not even it. He goes and gets an empty whiskey bottle, or he probably drank the whiskey. Whatever the case, he violates her with the empty whiskey bottle, and then he stages it in her arms like she's cradling it like you would a baby, and leaves her there for them to discover her in the morning like that. It's sick. One late night, a woman by the name of Nell Snyder, she goes out to just ride her bike, get some fresh air and probably some exercise, just minding her business. Unfortunately, Eric is out looking for his next victim of opportunity, and he spots Nell. Immediately, he slams into her with the car. Now, the bike becomes lodged in the grill of the car, and he takes off with the bike literally hanging from the car and assumes that, he had killed her, but he had not. She was very much still alive, fortunately. Later, he gave a statement about this saying, quote, "I simply just wanted to hurt someone and she was it for the night." That's how callous he was. He really just did not care. During his entire spree, he would wear a pair of women's gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints behind because, they got him caught up once. He kept this little pair of gloves hidden inside the home in the bathroom. He also would wear a little skull cap that he would pull down over his face to hide his deformities. And of course he did that so that he couldn't be identified. He tried to be very careful to avoid being, caught, captured, and taken back to jail. Meanwhile, the police had a whole investigation going on, and they were looking for, in their eyes, multiple suspects. They were fingerprinting every male over the age of 12. There was over 30,000 people fingerprinted. They had also conducted test firings of over 60,000 rifles that matched one used. In August of 1963, 4 years into Eric's spree, bars, Police find a little 22-inch rifle tucked in a wax bush, and to their pleasant surprise, it is able to be linked to one of the victims through a ballistics test. So from there, they decide to set up a trap. They place a similar yet inoperable version of the same type of weapon in the bush where the original one had been, and they set up a little sting operation, and they sit and they wait because they're thinking, our guy is going to come back for this, and when he does, we gonna get his ass. They are waiting and waiting, child. 1 week goes by, 1 week turns into 2, and nobody has come back for this rifle. And finally, 17 days into their stakeout, their patience finally pays off. Eric comes creeping up on that wax bush, digging in, looking for what he had left behind, and Chowdy pop out and they arrest him right on the spot. They take him down to the station for questioning, and initially, he only confesses to the one crime that they tell him that the weapon was linked to. He's like, that's the one I did, and that's it. They put him in a little holding cell, and during a conversation with one of the guards, he actually confesses to more. A total of 22 violent crimes, 8 of which were killings, and then 14 were attempts that were not successful. He finally agrees to sit back down with investigators and do a full and complete confession. In his confession, he demonstrates and showcases his exceptional memory. He gives an account of all of his crimes in very vivid and precise detail. Even those that had taken place toward the beginning of his 4-year spree, he still remembered very detailed things about the crime scene and what had taken place. He confesses to 250 burglaries. When provided photos of the outside of these houses, he is able to describe in full detail the layout of the house, like make references to the decor inside the home. He told exactly what he had taken from each house. He had remembered. And some of them he was able to describe what paintings they had on the wall, even flowers that they had inside the home. Like, just gonna use that little memory for good, but he decided not to. He even told detectives a story about, in one instance, as a method of like making a clean, unsuspicious escape, he had taken some of the laundry and he had thrown it like over the line outside in the back. And he pretended to just be hanging clothes to dry and then just dipped off. Detectives go back and review photos from that particular crime scene, and sure enough, just as he had described, there were clothes laying over the back on the clothing line. His confession lasts a total of 2 whole days. It's 2 days to go through all of that. It also brought about a couple of issues because 2 men have been wrongfully convicted of 2 of the crimes that Eric had actually committed. When details emerged that Eric had actually confessed to these crimes, both men put in an appeal to be immediately, released and have their convictions overturned. When the first man's appeal is heard, instead of just accepting the fact that Eric had done these crimes and that they had made a mistake and wrongfully convicted a man, the West Australia Chief of Justice at the time, Albert Wolf, he refutes Eric's claims and says that Eric could not have possibly been the one that committed these crimes. He called Eric a villainous, unscrupulous liar. I don't know where the other accent came from, but whatever. And denies that Eric has anything to do with it in reality. Eric recounts the evening perfectly. He gives a full detailed description of the vehicle that he had used to run over the young lady that night. And he described it as having this steel visor on the front. Now, when he mentions that, the judge says that he does not believe a person can be thrown over their car without that visor being ripped off. And the visor was still, in fact, intact. Furthermore, Mr. Chief of Justice, he comes forward and says that he believes that Eric is giving a false confession to these particular 2 crimes because he is just trying to prolong his own trial. He knows if, they have to look into this some more, it'll buy him some time. Ultimately, the appeals for both men who were convicted for the crimes that Eric committed were dismissed, and this was done before they even heard the second guy out. They just decided to dismiss them both. Not you thinking they were actually going to admit that they had wrongfully convicted 2 men. Child. Eric Cooke's trial begins and he pleads not guilty by reason of insanity. Y'all, I just made the most rookie mistake ever. I stopped the camera and I forgot to start it back when I started back talking. So y'all missed foundation, but I'm gonna start where I stopped though. As I was saying, The courts decide to dismiss both of the appeals from both of the men before the second man's appeal is even heard in court. They just decide, you know what, we're not hearing this, denied. And they refused to free the two men who were serving time for crimes that Eric himself had committed. Now, Eric, he enters a not guilty plea on the grounds of insanity. He claims that he suffers from schizophrenia and it is the cause of why he does the things that he has done. But the state's director of mental health services is summoned to court to evaluate him, and his findings were that Eric did not suffer from schizophrenia, nor did he show any other signs of mental health issues that would support his insanity plea. The defense felt like it wasn't fair that they used the state's director of mental health, so they wanted to bring in an independent psychiatric specialist to evaluate Eric and give his testimony. The state denied it. They refused to allow any independent psychiatric specialist to come in and evaluate him and express their own findings. They were like, nope, not happening. From start to finish, Eric's trial is very short. It only lasts a total of 3 days, after which they find him guilty and convict him of all charges brought against him, and he is sentenced to be hanged. He does have grounds for an appeal, but when his lawyer brings this to his attention, he turns it down. He said that he had taken lives and that he deserved to pay for what he had done. He returns to his prison cell where he awaits his sentence to be carried out. Reading his Bible religiously, he would speak very proudly about his wife and his children. Sarah did bring the kids to visit him ever so often. He also expressed a lot of concern about the two men who were serving time for crimes that he committed. He did not like the fact that he knew 2 innocent men were paying for crimes that he had committed himself, and he continued to speak about it, to try to tell any and everybody how these 2 men were innocent in an effort to get them freed before his little time was up. But the courts really were not trying to hear it at all. And this reportedly really haunted him. Like, he genuinely felt bad and was really haunted by the fact that these 2 innocent men were locked up. He'd even gone on a hunger strike for a while over not being believed behind this. But that of course didn't help them to be released, child. They didn't really care if he ate. Now Vivian, remember old Vivian from the beginning, decides to visit Eric in prison. And it's not clear as to what took place, what transpired, or what was said during this visit. But after the visit, Eric immediately goes back to his cell and he is upset. But he begins banging his forehead, like banging his head on his prison wall as hard as he can over and over until he is literally forced to stop. At the end of his 13 months, on his final day, he walked to the gallows very calmly. He was very accepting of his fate. He was not upset. He claimed to be completely at peace and ready to pay his debt to society. 10 minutes before his sentence is carried out, when asked if he had any final words, he places his hand on a Bible and he swears that he is telling the truth about committing the crimes that those 2 men are behind bars for, and that they are completely innocent. He wanted to make one final desperate attempt at being heard and believed and clearing these 2 men's names. And then they carried out his sentence, and that was pretty much it for him. But of course it ain't it for the video because mother is still here, obviously. Now, an interesting fact is he was the last man to be hung at Fremantle Prison in West Australia, and he was buried at Fremantle Cemetery. But what's weird is the fact that he was buried directly above child killer Martha Rendell, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, because I just don't even see it persist anyway. You know how I feel about the children. But anyway, she was the last woman to be hung in West Australia. So I thought that was really weird. Really weird coincidence. As for the 2 men who were wrongfully convicted, one of them is a man by the name of John Button, and the victim was his girlfriend, Rosemary Anderson. Now, this is something else that's kind of weird. I thought this was weird. Maybe it's just me. But Rosemary is the first name of my maternal grandmother. Anderson is the last name of my paternal grandfather. So I was like, that's kind of strange. Mother was a little freaked out by that. In this case, Rosemary had passed away at a hospital at approximately 2:30 a.m. She had spent the day with her boyfriend, John, to celebrate his 19th birthday. But the two had a little, a little argument. Then Maze is upset, and she did like a lot of us do. Sometimes you get so mad and you be like, I'm gonna walk home. She decides that she's going to leave his house and she will walk home. John gets into his car and he follows her in an attempt to, calm her down and talk her into getting into the car and at least allow him to drive her the rest of the way. But she is refusing. She is not trying to hear it, and she is not trying to get into the car. She was like, no, I literally would rather walk. Now, after she had refused for some time and it became kind of apparent to John that sis was probably not going to change her mind, he decides to just pull off and leave. But his nerves are shattered, okay? He's upset. So he pulls over, lights up a cigarette, smokes a cigarette in an effort to just calm down. When the nicotine hits the system pretty good, he's feeling calm and he's just like, you know what, I'm going to go back and attempt to get her into the car and make up right my wrongs. But when he returns to the route that she was taking, he finds her there laying down on the ground. She had been hit by a car. John frantically gets out of the car. He goes down to check her. She is still breathing, so he puts her into the car, rushes her to get medical treatment. The police, they bring John in for questioning, which of course he did not attempt to run or anything because he had not done anything wrong. They take him down to the station. He's more than willing to go down and talk to them and answer any questions that they have. But when he gets there, he realizes that they are suspecting that he had actually done this to her. And at first he's like, no, I didn't do it. He is maintaining his innocence. He is telling them everything they want to know. And then they start accusing him and just being really intense with the questioning. Then they hit him with the news that she had actually succumbed to her injuries. He's very distraught. According to Perth police, once he found out that news, he broke and confessed to being the one responsible for what had happened to her that night. He tried to maintain his innocence and say that, the police really kind of played with his head a lot and he was just very distraught and he was not in any way, shape, or form responsible for what had happened to Rosemary. But unfortunately, he is sentenced to 10 years in prison. He put in multiple appeals, but the courts continued to dismiss them. Even after Eric had come forward and confessed to actually committing the crime himself, John continued to maintain his innocence and advocate for his freedom. But he ends up serving 5.5 years out of the 10, and then he is released. And it is still, of course, on his record because it's not like his conviction was overturned. He was just released after 5.5 years and placed on probation or parole. It was parole. He was placed on parole for the remainder of his sentence. He had a lot of supporters who stood with him advocating for his freedom and for his name to be cleared, but they weren't really getting anywhere. And the family of Rosemary actually didn't even believe that Eric had done it. They still believed that John had done this to their daughter. So that kind of didn't really help because they was out here advocating for the opposite. His determination to not give up and clear his name finally paid off in 2001 when it was finally proven that Eric was responsible. What proved John's innocence and Eric's claims to be true was a reenactment of the accident. Crash test experts used a dummy that was Rosemary's size and weight, and then they had the car that Eric claimed to be in as well as the car that John drove. They reenact the accident, and sure enough, when they reenacted with the car that Eric had, the dummy goes right over the top of the car, and although the visor does flex, it was not torn off like the judge said that it would have had to if somebody indeed did go over the top of the car like Eric had said. It wasn't even cracked. After this, they did overturn John's conviction. His name was cleared. It was taken off of his record. And this victory for John opened the door for the second guy, Darryl, to also have his name cleared as well. Now, Darryl Beamish was a deaf-mute man who was wrongfully convicted of taking the life of 22-year-old Jillian Brewer. She was a wealthy socialite and also an heiress. She was actually Eric's first victim. At the time of the crime, they had no clue who had committed it. But Darryl was very well known to the local police for committing small petty crimes. He had no history of any violent crimes, anything that had to do with physically harming anyone. But they still brought him in and was convinced that he was their guy. Now, according to Perth police, after being questioned extensively, Darryl gave 4 confessions, 2 through a sign language interpreter. One he had handwritten out himself, and then the other one he had written on a note that was found where he was being detained. Darryl, just like John, said that those confessions were obtained through intimidation and threats made to him and his family and were simply untrue. Now, unless you've been living under a rock like Patrick Starr and did not know, police coercion is a thing. I know a lot of people hear stories and they always say that they don't understand how somebody will confess to something they didn't do, and they would never do that. Like, it's nothing police can say or do that will make me confess to something I did not do. Darryl has his days in court, and he unfortunately, of course, is convicted and placed in prison. He did attempt to appeal, citing that his confession was involuntary and a result of police intimidation, and therefore should have been ruled inadmissible during his trial, but it wasn't. The courts very quickly dismissed his appeal and the next 5 after that. He ends up serving a total of 15 years before he is released in 1977, but of course the conviction still remained on his record because he wasn't exonerated or anything. His sentence was just commuted down from a death sentence to life, and then it was commuted down to the 15 years. Fast forward to 2001, John's name is cleared, and he opens the door for the same to happen with Darryl. Darryl then attempts to go and clear his name again. It takes an additional 3 more years before the courts decide to hear him out and overturn his conviction. Now, while Darryl was only really interested in clearing his name, 6 years after that, in 2011, Darryl is actually paid by West Australia $425,000 USD for their wrongdoing, and I guess to make up for the 15 years that they had taken out of this man's life and all of the pain and suffering that he had to endure as a result of that. Eric Cooke's wife, Sarah, aka Sally, asked for the effect that her husband's actions had on her own personal life. When the news broke, she said that her sister completely disowned her and told her that she should change her name and move away. Sarah, however, did not want to do that. She said that she was completely innocent. She didn't have a reason to run and hide. She would much rather stay and face it. And so that's what she chose to do. She also supported and helped advocate for the men who were wrongfully convicted of some of her husband's actions in an attempt to help, clear their name and get them out of prison. She continued to raise her children as best as she could, considering she was now a single mother with 7 kids, and she would bring them to visit him in prison. The ones that wanted to. We'll get to that. She also became really good personal friends with John Button, one of the guys that was wrongfully convicted. They're like really good friends. Now, some of the children did opt to change their names and their identity completely to be separated from the mess. I don't blame them. I would have done the same. The children as adults have very conflicting recollections of the man that they called dad. And I thought this was very, very interesting. One of his sons and one of his daughters were interviewed. His daughter expressed very fond memories of her dad. Now, while she acknowledges that he did some very monstrous things, she completely doted on him as a father. She said that he was a very loving father. She recalled him buying her dolls, treating her very well. She said that she was the apple of his eye. She was daddy's little girl. He actually referred to her as daddy's little princess, and they had a very, very loving relationship. She even held on to this little note that he had written on a torn napkin, smuggled out of his prison cell on one of the visitation days, and slid it to her. The note reads, "To my princess, with love, forever in my heart, Daddy." And she literally is held on to it all of these years. She said that she loved that man. Now, she was angry with him because of what he had done and the fact that those actions caused her to miss out on the rest of their lives together, but she had no complaints about him as a father. Now, on the contrary, his son Tony's memories are completely different. Tony's memories of their father were of him being very cruel, very abusive, both physically and verbally. He said that he would beat them very often. Throughout his childhood, he was subjected to many cruel beatings and very hurtful words. He had plenty memories of his father very harshly physically disciplining his disabled brother Michael for literally nothing. It's as if he would target Michael and be especially cruel to him because he was disabled. He pretty much repeated the cycle of his father, because in his household as a child, with his cleft palate and his little lip, his dad treated him like shit. Like, granted, his dad was terrible to all of the children, male or female, but he was specifically worse with Eric because of his deformity. It's literally his childhood all over, except for the fact that he showed the mercy and love to his daughters that his father Vivian had not shown to his own daughters. But they both had a disabled son and treated them terribly. Tony did say that although his dad was not bad 100% of the time, he as a child lived in torment 100% of the time because he was always on edge, not knowing when his dad would flip out, what would trigger him into going into this violent rage. It was terrifying knowing that this man could fly off the handle at any moment, at any given time, without even being provoked. Like, at the moment that his dad came to visit him in prison and they had whatever the exchange was, and his reaction was him banging his head against the wall, I wonder what triggered that. Like, what was going through his mind? Was facing his father so triggering for him because he then realized that he had become an even worse version of the villain in his own story? Like, what was it? I want to know, but I guess I never will, because child, he is long gone. It's really, really sad and unfortunate that he did not opt to be a better man than his father was, or that what he endured throughout his most formative years was so damaging that he couldn't. I don't know. Now, while I personally don't believe in being born bad, thinking about Maryville, but we gonna keep riding, I do believe that some people are born with something that allows for them to commit certain acts that others simply could not. Things that some of us literally cannot fathom doing. Let me give you an example, because in my mind it's like this. Like, just as a surgeon is able to go forward, perform surgeries, take you apart and put you back together like a 50-piece puzzle, while on the other hand, some people cannot take the sight of the inside of like the human anatomy. It freaks them out. It's uncomfortable. They can't look at it. They're squeamish. How some people will literally pass out at the sight of like blood or too much blood. And for some people, that's a living to draw blood. Like, they work in a blood bank and can do all of the things. I feel like some of us are just wired differently in what we are capable of and what we can experience without being affected. I think that nature paired with nurture, or lack thereof, if you want to take that in the literal sense, makes the difference in how and why people like Eric can do the things that they do. So yes, somebody can share the same childhood experiences and go through the same kind of childhood trauma and not grow up and commit such heinous crimes. But I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, I was this, that, and the other as a child, but I didn't grow up and be a serial killer. Like, no, you didn't, but it could be a nurture. That their environment, their experiences after the fact, up until the point that they went nuts, was different from yours, and that could have made the difference. That could have swayed them in the direction that they went versus how you turned out. And or B, nature, that they are just genetically wired differently than you. So of course their reactions are different from yours. How they think of things and view things is different. The things that they are capable of doing is different. Y'all are wired different, baby. I think that both factors play a part in how these people end up doing the things that they do. And I want to know your thoughts. I do. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then baby, come fight me in the comments. My emojis stay ready, girl. They stay ready. They sitting all ready right now. Now let me make it clear that I am not defending his actions. I am not justifying the things that him and his brethren that we have talked about in the previous 80-some videos do, in no shape or form. There is no justification for the things that they do. However, there is a reason. And the two words reason and justification are not definitively synonymous, okay? They can exist independently of each other. And that's on Merriam-Webster, baby. Do not come debate me. Go debate the dictionary. Look at me. Y'all can tell I miss y'all because I'm just talking, child. I'm just going on and on at this point. But like I was saying, I'm very interested in human nature and just how our different experiences, how these different factors determine how we maneuver through this thing called life, which is what I find most fascinating about these people. Human nature and the human experience overall is something else. It's very interesting. I think the person that we ultimately become from our behavior, our character, our style of living, our habits, like everything that makes you you, is not completely determined on how you were raised and the environment in which you grew up. I really feel like about 40% of it is nature and literally how you're genetically wired, and the other 60 is environmental. I feel like that does play more of a part, but some of it does have to do with your wiring upstairs, girl, and can't nobody convince me different. Which, you know what this reminds me of and puts on my mind at this present moment? There's a guy that I have been wanting to do a video on, y'all, and finding enough information about his life, it's like literally finding a needle in a haystack, for real. So up until now, I have not been able to make that happen, but I have not given up hope. I'm determined to put together enough information to tell his story to y'all, because to me, it's so interesting, and he has a theory that I find so fascinating. Now, I'm going to preface and say it sounds insane. It sounds completely ridiculous. It sounds crazy. It probably will sound all of those things to a lot of y'all. I know that. It sounded crazy to me when I first heard it, but hear me out. There are actually doctors and science peoples who have supported this theory that he has. Now, he is the cannibal. And the theory is that the urge to cannibalize begins with infancy and is within all of us, right? I know. Hold on. Let me explain. So the thing is, a baby being weaned from its mother that has been, breastfeeding, experiences a very real, very strong and carnal urge to consume its mother. It is a very, very strong need to literally consume its mother. Like, not get the milk, literally eat the girl. Watch them babies y'all out there breastfeeding, because right now they can't be trusted. And that's a good thing they ain't got teeth yet. Maybe that's why God sent them down here with no teeth, so they couldn't do it. He be knowing what to do, child. Now the thing is, for a lot of us, for most of us, this urge and desire completely goes away. It goes away and we never revisit it again. We never experience those urges or thoughts or feelings ever again. But for them, the feeling and the idea remains dormant in their psyche for years, all the way into adulthood, right? And it's triggered again by either stress or trauma. When this happens, the desire returns, and that now grown-up version of that little dark desire having ass baby wants to consume another human. They feel that weird urge to consume somebody else. Isn't that insane? I want to know how y'all feel about that. You can look it up, because it's shit online to read about it. You can look it up if you don't believe me that, this is a thing. I mean, it's a crazy thing, but it's a thing nonetheless. I began collecting notes on him months ago, and I would get frustrated because I can't find enough to piece together his whole life story, and I would stop. But I wouldn't delete the document because I'm still, like I said, I ain't gave up hope, because it's so interesting. I want to tell it, so I'm just like, nah, we just gonna revisit this. And one day, when I have scraped enough information up to share his story with you guys, I will. And it's so crazy because this looked like he really could be cute if he tried. Or maybe it's just because he's Russian and I like Russian men. I got a thing for the Russian men. I don't know what it is, child, because I'm literally afraid of them. Like, I feel like they're so intimidating. I'm low-key scared of them, but notice how I'm smiling when I say that. It's crazy. Like, yes, little Russian daddy with your dangerous ass. But not the ones that's gonna like kill me and try to eat me. You know what? Let me go. It's time for me to go. My mama be watching these videos, and y'all got me on here being all kind of inappropriate. Child, this video about to be about as long as the last 10 minutes of work, child. Let me go. Oh, I had to come back because I told y'all, well, I said on Snapchat or Instagram, one of the two, that I was going to show y'all my new makeup palettes. I got 3 new eyeshadow palettes because, retail therapy is a thing. And while mother was going through, I had to just swipe that debit card a couple of times and buy me some new makeup. And so I'm gonna show just the palettes. The first one is this ABH Norvina. I think this is the, yeah, it says it on the back. Mini Pro Pigment Palette Volume 2. That's the one I used today. And it's real cute. I like it a lot. And you know, sis never disappoints with the pigment. This is the thing though. I didn't expect it to be so bold. I wanted it to be like a very toned down version of this look kinda. Then I said I was going to stop utilizing so much of my damn lid space in every look. I obviously did not adhere to that today because all of the lid space is taken. Sis always delivers on the pigment, especially these mini palettes. Like, these are my favorite. Honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't really too much care for the large Norvina palettes. I bought one and I probably used it like twice. But these mini palettes be the bomb. Like, I love the minis. The rectangle palettes are those girls too. Second palette is this Natasha Denona Gold palette. I love it a lot. This is her. I feel like the camera is not even doing it justice. What the fuck just dropped out of here? Girl, my eyeshadow. No ma'am. Look at this. Now mother got gold all on the heel of her foot. That ain't cute. Oh, nobody. Anyway, I was trying to say before I was so rudely interrupted by Arson, this little minty frosty shade right here is so, she's everything. She literally is everything to me. And also this dark blue right here, Python, girl, I love it. I used them the other day. Felt like I was cheating on y'all since I wasn't filming. I said that on Instagram and y'all was like, bitch, you are. And the third palette is this Natasha Denona palette. This is Metropolis. Yeah. Metropolis. We're gonna be a little bit more careful with her because I ain't got time for them to be hopping out. I love this. Look at that. It's the baby shit green for me. Like, I love it. I used it the other day. I used this one. So pretty. I love these two blues. I love these two. We done already delved into those girls. This is probably one of my favorite palettes of all. Natasha snapped. I freaking love them both. Like, if it's one thing that Natasha did, is that, okay? She did that with these two. The quality is really cute. Now, honestly, in the past, I really wasn't seeing it for that girl because I bought this palette. Was this the Tropic palette? Very pretty, very beautiful color story. Loved her until I tried to use her. Quality was not there, especially considering the price point. It really pissed me off that I paid $129 for this palette and I pretty much just paid for sheer disappointment. I didn't take it back because some of the colors I did love. This mint one right here, in love it. The blue is really pretty, but it's not as buttery as the other ones, and it just does not give what's supposed to be gave, girl. I was excited about this little frosty yellow lemoncello. I think that's what it's called. Yes, I ain't giving what's supposed to be gave. I did really like this little quad right here. Honestly, I still felt like the quality could have been better. And so after this purchase, I was like, we ain't doing it again. But I've been eyeing these two because I really like the color story. And when I tell you on camera, it's not even doing it justice. The colors are amazing. So I was like, I'm gonna take a risk because I got this little 15% off coupon and I can send it back anyway. So let me just see. Like, if I like them, I can use my little 15% off and mama ain't gotta pay all them coins. Both of them are literally that girl, okay? Y'all know, if you haven't noticed, I use a lot of the same products over and over. I am the type of person that when something works for me and I really like it, I like to stick to that. I'm not opposed to trying new things at all, but if it's not broke, there's nothing to fix. So, yeah. So if you see me using a product and I'm telling you, girl, this is it, you should get this, you trust and believe that I've used it and I love it so much. Because one thing I don't appreciate and I don't like is when you see an influencer, no shade to nobody, when you see an influencer get on camera and swear by a product and they're just like, this is it, this is life, I love this, I can't live without it. And then you go order the product. By the time yours come in the mail, sis is using something completely different. It's like, sis, I thought this was the move. I thought we were using this one. And then you never even see them use their product again, child. You just stuck with it. And if you're lucky, it actually is worth something. I ain't gonna push no products for a coin if it's not something that I genuinely believe in, genuinely use, have test driven it myself and like it. And I'm telling you, because a lot of people are like, oh, you deserve sponsorships. Trust me, people reach out daily. But it has to be something I feel like makes sense and that I really genuinely enjoy. Now, I will tell y'all that one of the brands that I use often has reached out, and I'm excited to be working with them in the near future. But That's all I can say right now. As far as everything else, I didn't really get new items. Now, I did lose my Beauty Bakery Lollipop Liner, which is my favorite eyeliner of all time. You put that girl on and she dries down, literally she does not move. You can rub on it and do all of the things, but it's gonna stay put. And I've tried plenty eyeliners because I had not found one that literally stays put no matter what, or just stays put period, because it's not like I'm walking around doing all of this. But all of them usually fall short. And then when I got that one, the Beauty Bakery one, I fell in love. But I lost her. This has pulled a whole disappearing act. I don't know where it is. I'm gonna buy more, but this one was on sale. And then I have a little 15% off coupon girl. So I got this Marc Jacobs one to try. It's a pretty reputable brand. So I'm gonna see what's being given there. That's pretty much it for new stuff. I also ordered from Tammy Clark. She is an influencer here in these YouTube streets. Very beautiful girl, love her. And she released her own palette, Chasing Butterflies, and it's so cute and has a yellow in there that looks really promising. And y'all know I've been looking for a good yellow. So that girl delivers. Actually, shit, it might be delivered. Let me see. It was supposed to deliver today and it's $2.25. And did deliver today at 12:13 p.m. Delivered in the mailbox. So I gotta go get that. I'll be using that palette in Thursday's video because I'm excited to use it. And y'all know Mother has been waiting for a good yellow moment, okay? And I think this is gonna be it. And then she has these cake liners that are so super cute. They're like the little pot liners, like the gel. I don't think it's gel, it's like a cream liner. I got like 4 or 5 of them. Can't wait. I might get them out the mailbox today and play with them girls before y'all see me again. Sorry, not sorry. And if I do, I'll still use it in Thursday's video. But you know, Mother gets a little excited and she can't wait. Y'all, I'm about to go now for real. But before I do want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me during my little hiatus. You guys know that I try to be really open, really honest, and really real, because I feel like although I would rather not have to deal with depression and anxiety, I have been clinically diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder, and this has been I've been dealing with it for a long time, like for as long as I literally can remember, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know it was a thing. I really kind of thought it was kind of normal, actually, which is really sad. About 4.5 years ago, I did go see a psychiatrist and I was diagnosed and I began treatment. And I know I said I was gonna make a video about that, but I ain't ready. Girl, I was trying to can, but I can't. Although I would rather not have to deal with that, I feel like if I'm honest about it, instead of just pretending like something else is going on and not being like, no, this is the reason. Because granted, I'm in a much better space than I used to be. Like, this is the happiest I've ever been. The last year of my life has genuinely, I think, been the happiest of my entire life. And so I'm in a good space most of the time. But unfortunately, with those things come both highs and lows. And so, you know, sis like to show up sometimes out of the blue, like my absentee father, okay? And remind me that she is still alive and well and she is still a thing. And so I have to acknowledge her and just properly deal, and then tell her to go on about her business. And so when my depression and anxiety arise, I have to give that same treatment. Child, I gotta acknowledge her and then let her know to go on now. That's really honestly what it was. I'd rather be open and honest. Now I'm running out of memory in the middle of my ministry now. I don't even remember where I was. Granted, I'd rather not have to deal with it, but I can't change that. I do. And so I know that for a lot of people, it is inspiring and encouraging to see somebody make it to the other side of the journey and struggle that they are currently on. And a lot of times you don't feel like you're going to make it out of it, but it's inspiring to see somebody who has and who is managing and doing a lot better. A lot of people feel like they're alone, especially if they're the only person that they know that deals with things like this. Girl, you not. It's a lot of us out here with your same issues. You most definitely can navigate through. So me being open about it, being honest about it, is going to help anybody, or in any way can help somebody, then I would rather do that. Because I really at first thought about not even offering an explanation, just being like, you know, I'll be back so-and-so day. But I was like, no, I'm gonna keep it real. A lot of y'all commented and a lot of people wrote me on Instagram. I made a post there as well. A lot of people DM'd me, and I just want to thank all of y'all so much for your kind words and reaching out. I love y'all.
God knows I do.
And honestly, I can't even tell you still where it came from. Like, The thing is, there is not always an explanation. People who don't understand it and haven't gone through it, they're just like, why are you sad? Why? Well, what is it about? And sometimes there is no answer to that. I literally was laying in my bed at like 1 in the morning watching Emmy Made in Japan make funnel cakes. If you don't know who Emmy is, she gives positive vibes, a good aura. She's happy. She's the most adorable thing ever. And she's making funnel cakes, okay? If that ain't the happiest little shit that can be going on, and my ass all of a sudden felt like I wanted to cry. And I'm just like, bitch, why do you want to cry, girl? We just learning how to make funnel cakes. We gonna make a funnel cake tomorrow. What is there to cry about? Sometimes it ain't no explanation. It just hits you and you just have to deal with the shit, and that's what happened to me. I just had to unplug for a minute. I had my little fat boy Blue by my side. We spent a lot of time outside. That is one of 2 tips that my psychologist gave to me that has really helped me, and I'm gonna give them both to you right now. The first one is, it sounded like bullshit when she first said it, honestly. I was sitting there and I'm just like, Joy, girl, this don't even sound like, I know it's kind of ironic that my psychologist's name is Joy, but I'm just like, Joy, girl, that don't even sound like science. It sounds like some shit you're just telling me to do, girl. But it really does help. So she was like, natural sunlight really boosts the mood. And I'm just like, well, why I be so mad when I'm outside and I'm hot and I'm sweating, girl? Like, I don't be happy. I be mad and hot. But she's like, go outside and get you some direct sun. Even if you don't go outside, just open up the blinds, open up the window, let the sun in. The rays literally do boost your mood, and it's the craziest shit because it does work. I don't know why, it does work. So I would take Blue to like the dog park every day for at least an hour, and we would go on longer walks throughout the day, and we would be outside soaking up the sun. It really does make you feel better. It's so weird. The second thing she told me to do was to make a list of things that I enjoy, like things that make me feel good, things that I enjoy doing, things that make me happy, right? Now, when I first started seeing her, which was about 4 years ago, I was just like, nothing makes me happy. And she was like, well, hell, what used to make you happy? I'm paraphrasing here. Of course, she didn't say hell, what used to make you happy. Y'all know me. I probably told this story before because this is how my YouTube channel started. So I was like, I used to enjoy doing makeup. Like, I wasn't doing my makeup at all. I used to really enjoy doing makeup. And she was like, well, do it. Get up every day, even if you don't feel like it, even if you're feeling bad. Make time for that. Spend some time doing your makeup, right? And then she was like, what is something that, you know, that you would have liked to have done? Now, I had thought about doing YouTube before and had actually filmed a couple videos, never posted them, but I was like, well, I did want to do a YouTube channel. And she was like, well, do it. That's a good thing to do. It's a good hobby to have. Like, it'll give you something to do, something to care about. And so then I just started making my little YouTube videos and started doing my makeup. Child, that was literally the only 2 things on my list because I was like, I can't even remember what else I used to like enjoy doing. I don't like doing anything. I don't enjoy doing anything. Nothing makes me happy. And she was like, well, as time goes on, you come across things that you enjoy doing, add them to the list. And always take time to do things off the list. And if you're feeling really bad, then those are really the times where you should do as many things off the list as much as you can. For the first year, I was on medication. Like, I had to, child, we had to get up out the deep end, girl. I had to get to at least where the little water was, you know, at my navel and manageable. I mean, for some people it does take that, but it's your life, so it definitely is worth it if that's the case. So yeah, those 2 things really helped me out a lot. Those 2 things have consistently worked for me. If I could offer anybody some advice on dealing with this, don't ignore it. To seek help, that's number 1. And then, yeah, to help manage it, or if you feel like you don't want medicine, or if you're not that bad off, then those 2 things I would recommend you do. This is it for real. I didn't say it bye, I know, like 3 or 4 times by now, but this is for real it, because this video is about to be hell to edit, okay? But I'm gonna try to get it as early as possible to y'all on Tuesday. I'm gonna try to get it finished so I can get it uploaded early on Tuesday, and we can talk and catch up. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending time with me. I love y'all so much, like, for real. Like, I used to think it was so corny and fake when people are like, my supporters are the best. And I'm just like, now here I am feeling that about my people. So I guess they really do feel that way. Regardless, it's true in my case, child, because I love y'all. Y'all are really, really amazing. Again, thank you so much for reaching out, for your kind words. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and listening to me talk about the things that I talk about, and sometimes nothing at all, child, like right now. I will see you guys again on Thursday. I hope you guys have a great week. Don't forget to like my video for me. I did all the hard work. All you gotta do is push a little button, girl. Go on and like my video. Subscribe if you have not, because if you have not and you're watching my videos, you're literally trespassing at this point. As always, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Baby, I gotta get to the stove because I'm on my last roll of tissue paper, and that is a dangerous game that I'm playing. The subject of today's story. I went completely blank. His name is Edgar. No, it's not. No, the fuck it's not. I'm gonna try to put this on without knocking it off because it is not glued down. These bitches are fighting in the street, like for real. You know what? I'm not dealing with this today. I'm dead.
One eternity later.
I'm tired. Me and Blue was just out there fighting. He back there. We was out the dog park the other day, minding our business. It's like the squeaking of his little ball I was throwing back and forth was attracting them. I noticed they started gathering right outside the dog park. Now they just sitting and watching. And I'd accidentally thrown his ball outside the little gate. So we go outside and get it, and they tried it, girl. They tried it. But Blue didn't back down this time because he's sick of this shit. All of them ran off, but his one tried to charge him, and he did not back down, baby. They both charged. The duck charged credit, and Blue charged debit on that ass. He tried to hiss a little bit at Blue. Blue still wasn't trying to hear that shit, okay? He still did not back down, and the goose ran off. So I said, you know what? I'm about to take his ass out here right now on a leash to scare them away. This morning they want to decide that they want to, congregate right out here outside my window. And so I take Blue out there on the leash. He does his little dash. And of course, same scenario. All of them ran off except that one. He ran toward Blue. Blue kept on going toward him. I put him on the leash. I didn't know how it was going to go. I don't know if he can really fight like that. But he eventually ran off too. Call the Southern PETA on me if you want to. That's fine. No animals were hurt. Their little blood pressures might be raised, but they ain't hurt. All right, where was I? No bueno. I'm moving to Texas. Got to work on my Spanish. I wish I could speak Spanish. That he could use. Really, Blue? Christine and Eric. Not Christina Eric, shit, that's his mama. He is a picked up. I was about to say he's a picked up. I can't tell if I put the tape on there straight or not, but fuck it. Very different. After waking up and finding similar yet inoperable photos from the crime scene. Okay, crime scene. Girl, what is a crime scene? Now, although he was... See, I don't play with stuff that don't spray it first and you try to spray it again and it's just gonna squirt. I don't play like that. Baby, my wig slide back. Jesus, can you hold on to it while I set my face? I used today this. Girl, get out of here. I'm trying to film. Sandstone? I think that's what. No, that's not sandstone. If I know it works, like, why fix it, girl? What is it saying? If it ain't broke, why try to fix it? The pressures of the thumbnail, child. I gotta make sure I got lipstick missing off the inside. Hold on. Gotta make sure my hair is right. And just try to give model, girl. Just necklace crooked. My forehead be looking a little big. I gotta pull my wig down. I hope this hair looks good on camera. I look like somebody's grandmother with my hair pushed back. Like one of them old rich grandmothers. At least I look rich though. I think. The old rich grandmothers with the big creepy house in the scary movies. The flowers in the attic type grandmother, One that really don't like the kids. She ain't really like you when you was a kid either. But you was a child, so she had to deal. Alright, if I ain't looking cute enough them, then I ain't gonna be, oh well.